Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first, I want to highlight Dynamic Forces real quick. Hop on over to Dynamic Forces. They got great collectibles and comics available for sale, signed books, remarked books, sketches, all that kind of stuff, right? But I do want to point out that right now, they got some really nice exclusive limited edition covers to Stray Dogs Dog Days issue number 1, including this fantastic Evil Dead 2 movie poster homage cover that I absolutely love. You can get signed copies, you can get non-signed copies. Check them all out at dynamicforces.com at the link in the description below or right up here in the video. And of course, remember to use the code Robbie at your cart. You'll save 10%. And we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, The Dark Knights of Steel issue number 3 from DC Comics, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Yasmine Putri, Arif Prianto on the coloring, Wes Abbott on the lettering. This book is fantastic. Like, it's been pretty solid since it kicked off. It's a high fantasy take on the DC superheroes, right? So you got the House of El, you got Jor-El and his wife. They're like the king and the queen. Clark is basically the prince, the king in waiting. Batman's like part of that thing there. I don't really want to spoil the connection, but Batman's part of that. Meanwhile, you got Black Lightning in this other kingdom, and they're fearful of the Kryptonians, and then you get all this kind of crazy Game of Thrones type intrigue going on, right? So you got familiar faces and characters set in a familiar setting, but not familiar to those characters, and it works, right? And it's been building up some steam, it's been picking up its momentum, but in issue number 3, it just absolutely erupts for me. I loved this. I thought it was an incredibly well-crafted issue. All of the characters, for the setting that they are in, are working pretty much in character the way that you would think, but enough surprises, enough tweaks, enough differences to kind of amp things up and keep it mysterious and keep you guessing. Really like that. The artwork, holy freaking cow. The line work, the figures, everything about it is so freaking dynamic. It is beautiful. It's basking in regality, almost, you could say, right? It's very appropriate for the story, but it's also just very appropriate for superhero comics. The coloring helps add to that, helps that artwork even pop more. I freaking loved it. This is a book that has slowly gotten better and more intriguing as it's gone on. This is a 12-issue miniseries. This is the issue 3 of it, and I loved it. I think it's just getting better and better and better. No signs of slowing down. Dark Knights Steel number 3, that's the pick of the week. That surprised me as well. This week, it's all right. It's a pretty decent week. It's not a lot of stuff to like super jump out high, but I will go ahead. Let's talk about more DC books. We got Batman 119 here. It was all right. I really like Josh Williamson. I really like Josh Williamson right now over at DC Comics, and I was really excited for his Batman run. Still am. But the first issue was pretty solid. It had great artwork, and it was a decent enough story. It had Lex Luthor kind of thrown into the mix, so I thought that was cool. This picks up the story adequately, right? The story beats, the narrative, everything flows pretty decently from the first issue. Some revelations about what's actually going on, how that's to be. The artwork, though, the artwork keeps shifting here, and it goes from like detailed and rendered with the coloring, like lots of texture and depth, and then very flat on some pages, and it doesn't quite work. They do try to make it fit from scene to scene, but it is quite jarring, and it kept pulling me out of the story. So Batman 119, it's all right. It's solid, but it's all right. Detective Comics 1047. I was not looking forward to this book. In fact, I was looking forward to this possibly being the last issue of Detective I read for a while, because this starts the 12-week big series of The Tower. So this is going to be going on for 12 weeks, weekly, and it's The Tower, and the backup story, Shadows of the Bat, and I liked it. I thought it was all right. So, like, the first half of this book is kind of set now, and it's explaining what's going on. So you basically, Arkham Asylum has been replaced by Arkham Tower. It's this big tower right in the middle of Gotham. They're trying to focus on rehabilitation and not necessarily something like punishment, right? And it's obviously going to backfire because all of a sudden the book, and it's very jarring when it happens, just skips ahead like 3 weeks or something like that, right? And everything's different. And it just drops you into like the middle of Act 3. And you're like, what? And then probably in the next issue it's going to go back, but I'm interested to see how they're going to structure this, but the way that the story unfolded, the big reveals towards the end, I liked it. I thought it was cool. It kept me intrigued. And then the backup story by Matthew Rosenberg, I really like that story. It's a story earlier on in Batman's career about this kid's parents killed by the Joker, but he's there and he witnesses it. I thought that was pretty solid too. So I liked Detective actually better than Batman this week, but none of them I liked better than Arkham City Order of the World issue number 4. This book is creepy, yo. Danny's artwork in this book is incredibly atmospheric, very moody. I mean, with the coloring, with the pacing, the composition, everything about it is freaking awesome, right? So Dan Waters, the writer, is able to take these kind of like BC list Batman villains and really turn them on their heads and make them very Vertigo-esque, creepy-ass characters, and I'm loving it. So after the A-Day stuff, Arkham Asylum's been destroyed or whatever, a lot of the inmates are still loose out in the city. There's one surviving doctor who's out there trying to find them, but she's kind of like also working with them or something like that. She's losing her mind. There's this idea that there's the ghost of Arkham and that the Arkham map put over the city of Gotham and it correlates. Some weird type stuff in here, but I absolutely loved it. Love this iteration of Dr. Phosphorus. Like I said, just taking some really cool stuff and doing a very it's like a Vertigo book of like C-list Bat villains. And it works. I'm loving it. That book is fantastic. Then we got Justice League Incarnate, issue number 3 here. Loved this issue. Okay, so this is stemming out of all the stuff from Infinite Frontier. It's very multiverse oriented. It's picking up on some of the threads left dangling after Multiversity. You got the Gentry in here and that kind of stuff. But basically there's a crack in the multiverse. There's some kind of great darkness. Cue that term, that's a big term, the Great Darkness. There's some great darkness that's going to be coming through it. People are after the power, including Darkseid, who's now an amalgamation of every iteration of Darkseid that's ever existed into one ultimate evil Darkseid. Darkseid is something like that. Anyway, he's badass. So he's after the crack in the multiverse, but so are our heroes because Barry Allen has been kidnapped and he's somewhere behind that. They're trying to find Barry Allen, but they're also trying to close this crack in the multiverse. So they're going from all these different worlds. Now the art changes in this one too, but every time it changes, it's because they're in a different reality. And even though the artistic change is a bit jarring, it makes more sense according to the story. So I don't mind it as much here, though I do wish we could get one like cohesive artist. Oh, the one more thing, Detective Comics was written, the artwork was by Ivan Reis, so that really helped sell it too, to be honest. So maybe I was overselling it. Maybe the artwork had more to do with it. Anyway, Justice League Incarnate, though, love this issue. The idea that Grant Morrison put up in Multiversity of comic books in one reality representing the events of another reality, they deal with that here, I think, a bit too on the nose. It gets a bit too meta for its own sake, and I'm saying more meta than Grant would. I don't know. Maybe not more meta than what Grant would do. Anyway, I'm rambling. Justice League Incarnate, I liked it. If you're into that crazy multiversal DC stuff, you'll like it. One Star Squadron, issue number 2. This book slapped. This book was awesome. This was almost pick of the week. It was a close contender. So One Star Squadron is kind of like, imagine DC Comics meets The Office. I mean, that's a really good way to kind of put it. Red Tornado runs this organization where people can hire heroes to appear at like conventions or birthday parties or for security work and things like that, right? So it's a very humorous take on things. It's written by Mark Russell, who does a lot of these really cool, like satirical kind of takes on things. Really liked this book. It really focuses mostly on this one character known as the Minuteman. He takes a pill. He gets powers for 1 minute, so it's like Our Man, but just a minute. But he's run out of his pills, so now he's buying them off the streets, but they're like cut, so like they only last him like 45 seconds, and he almost gets his ass kicked by a bunch of kids. It's wild, it's fun, but it's still somewhat respectful of at least the character of Red Tornado, and I really like the ending. I liked that book a lot. I thought it was cool. Then we got Crushin' Lobo here with issue number 8. This is the final issue of what has been one of DC's best books of the year. Crushin' Lobo, I was not expecting to make it all the way through this book, but that being said, this book was awesome. I really liked it. Lobo was characterized perfectly. Crush, Lobo's daughter, she winds up she's having problems in her life, so she winds up going off to find her father to try to confront the problems there, and it winds up into this big space, like, craziness. It's violent, it's irreverent, it's fun, it's absurd, it breaks the fourth wall, and it's not annoying when it does it. Crush and Lobo's been great. This is a really good, solid issue that sets up more to come and gives us the ending that maybe we weren't expecting, but definitely the ending we deserved. I love this. Give me more Crush and Lobo. It's important that both of them are together because that was freaking awesome. Anyway, Crush and Lobo number 8. Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue number 6. It's an alright issue. I'm trying to remember what happened in it. Oh yeah, so Damian shows up. He has a conversation with Jonathan Kent. It's just, Damian's drawn like he's like 15, 16, 17. I don't know, that kind of threw me off. It's alright. Oh yeah, the Kent farm's has been attacked in a previous issue, and so Batman and them are trying to protect Jonathan and Lois, and I don't know, man. The book is okay, but it's not really winning me over. Each issue just doesn't do much for me, man. I really wanted to be into this book. I love Tom Taylor as a writer. I love Jonathan Kent, but there's just some magic that's missing from the Jonathan Kent that Tom Taylor was writing in Deceased. But Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 6, it's all right. It's all right. World of Krypton, issue number 2. Love the artwork here. I'm a big fan of Michael Avon Oeming's artwork. The story is just the same thing that we've seen done and done over and over again. The origin of Zod, the origin of Jor-El, and the events leading into the destruction of Krypton. And we've seen this story told so many times. Now, artistically, I love it. Like I said, I love that Oeming artwork. But story-wise, it's not delivering me anything new, and it's not doing it any kind of a new way. So it's been kind of dull and boring, and I'm probably going to hop off of it. Speaking of hopping off of, Soul Plumber issue number 4. You know, I really highly praised this book for its first issue or two. And then in the last issue, I was like, you know, it's starting to depend too much on vulgarity and less on any kind of actual resonating theme that it's trying to do. That really continued on into issue number 4. It's just leaning into the crude, rude obscenities, and it's lost all of its nuance. It's just, I don't know, it's trying to say something, but it's kind of one note with that, and then with all the vulgarity, it's just kind of one note with that too. And trust me, I love some vulgar fun, but this is just kind of boring me now, and that's a big shame because I really liked this book when it first started. Now I don't even know if I want to continue it to the end. Let's jump over to Marvel. We got Thor issue number 20 today. You're probably going to be hearing a lot about this. I had heard it's already selling between like 10 to 20 bucks. It's the first appearance of a new villain for Thor. We'll see. We'll see how that pans out. That being said, the issue itself was pretty solid. I've been really worried that Donny Cates was just retreading some of the same ground that all the other previous writers in the last several years of Thor have been doing. I mean, mostly Jason Aaron, because he had such a run. You know, the whole relationship between Odin and Thor, and, oh, he can't lift the hammer anymore, or he does, like, all this kind of stuff feels like been there, done that, and Donny's starting to put his own twist in it. And it's taken 20 issues to happen, but there's a moment here I'm like, I see what's happening. There's more to this story. That's interesting. It's taken 20 issues to get to this point. Overall, this run has been fun. It took a dive for me for a while there, but it's been lifted up with this God of Hammers, having Klein back. Nick Klein on the artwork doesn't hurt. Matt Wilson there on the coloring. Thor number 20, I really liked it in the debut of a new Thor villain. Then we got Inferno issue number 4. It's the final issue of Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. I've been looking forward to this day, to see these plot threads develop and to see what Hickman was. What's the end of Act 1, right? It's really sad, though, because now we know Hickman's gone. They say he's not. Hickman's gone, and I think he confirms it in this issue. I really think there's a moment in here. If you're reading this book, there's a moment when Moira is talking to Destiny and Mystique. I really feel like that's Jonathan Hickman talking to X Editorial. Y'all who read this, let me know what you think of that. That being said, loved it. This was awesome. These last 2 issues of Inferno have been everything I wanted, right? These issues of Inferno, these events, if this would have all just, this and everything that dealt with Nimrod or Mystique in his X-Men run, like the 20-something issues, if all of that and all of this Inferno stuff was put in those 12 issues of X-Men, and then we geared up into the next phase, This would be huge. We would be talking about this. It would be big. It would be explosive. It would be dynamic. That being said, it's bittersweet. Lots of cool ideas. Lots of cool setup, and things are placed in a certain way. Things happen that I was not expecting to happen. Setting things into a different direction. I liked it. Then Hickman's gone. And I'm telling you, Hickman in this book is straight up saying, I mean, that's a wild scene. That's super meta. Anyway, Inferno number 4, I liked it. Now we shall see what happens with Destiny of X. Elektra, Black, White, and Blood, issue number 1. This is an anthology book. It was alright. First story is written by Charles Soule with artwork by Mark Bagley, focusing on Elektra. I love the character of Elektra, so I was excited to check this out, see what they do. Mark Bagley's artwork, it's what you expect from Mark Bagley. It's a vampire story. That was weird. Then there's a Leonardo Romero story. The artwork in that I liked, not as much as I typically like Leonardo's work, but I did like it. The story was okay. And then the last one, Declan Shalvey, Simone de Armini, The Crimson Path, that one was a pretty decent story too. That was probably my favorite out of all of them. That being said, nobody's really using the black and white to like a really good effect. Well, I don't know. Leonardo, yeah, they all use the colors to a good effect, but I don't know. It's all right. This is just all right. Like if you're a hardcore Elektra fan, maybe. Other than that, I mean, I love that Romita Jr. cover, but it's all right. It's going to be like all of those Black, White, and Blood anthologies or whatever. The best of which, out of all of them I've read so far, has been that Red Sonja. Wastelanders, Doom, issue number 1. This is an all right one-shot set in the Old Man Logan world. Dr. Doom, it's focusing on him, diving a little bit into his past. There's a sorcerer that's trying to, like, confront him, and the revelation of who that is, I was like, really? That's it? So these Wastelanders one-shots have been pretty solid so far, but this Doom one so far for me has been one of the more disappointing ones. This one and the Wolverine one. I really like the other ones, Hawkeye and the Star-Lord ones. I really like those two. Wastelanders Doom number 1. It was just all right. Then we had Darkhold the Omega, or Darkhold Omega number 1. This is the finale of this Darkhold saga, which is rather confusing. So it was bookended by Alpha and Omega, and that's telling a story where these heroes read from the Darkhold, and Chthon gets resurrected, and then we got all these one-shots that were like what-if, twisted horror movie versions of these characters, and those were, for the most part, pretty solid. And then this is the wrap-up, and I'm like, I don't see how this all connects to those one-shots. That's confusing me. Outside of that, it's all right. It's all right. Kind of, I don't know. I think that would have just been better served as being a series of what-ifs, to be honest. X-Men is here with issue number 6. It's all right. Pepe Larraz is back on the artwork, so that's really cool. Story-wise, it's all right. So they're dealing with this Captain Krakoa. I'm lost here, man. Have we already seen Captain Krakoa? They're acting like I'm supposed to. Did I forget something? It's been a while since this issue came out. But most of this is this Fei Long dude who's pissed that the mutants have taken over Mars and have renamed it Arakko, because his big, bold plan was to go and colonize and take over Mars. So he decides he's got his sights set on the moon, on Phobos, one of the moons of Mars. And I actually like that. Like, when that happened, I was like, that's pretty funny. Like, I like that. So that's kind of cool. And it was an all right issue. X-Men's been all right. Let's jump over to Image. And from Image, we have Monkey Meat, issue number 1. What the hell was this? It says it's a thrilling anthology. It's an anthology? What? I had no idea what the hell was going on in here. So it's like, you open it up, and it's showing you like this ad for like Monkey Meat food cans. So it's like, in these tough times when food is so scarce, what's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? It's Monkey Meat, made from 99% real ape meat. Like, oh, okay. So I'm like, expecting a book about this like product or something, and there's another. I'm so freaking confused. I kind of like the artwork, but it didn't clearly tell me a story. I had no idea what the hell was going on. Like, no idea. Confused as hell. Monkey Meat, number 1. What TF was that? What TF? If you're going to abbreviate it all, abbreviate it all. We don't half-ass around here. Nocterra is here with the Blacktop Bill special. Blacktop Bill is one of the villains in the Nocterra world. This is supposed to be his origin, but not really. Like, you get, like, no information. I mean, maybe you get a little bit. You could piece together some stuff. Like, what? Nocterra has not been my favorite. It started off really strong, building on character and concept, but then it just started losing me. But this one-shot special, Like, I don't think it's necessary, is it? I didn't get anything out of it. Plus, most of the issue are these two people talking. One person's telling them the story of Blacktop Bill, apparently a reference to a scene in issue number 4 of Nocterra. So most of it is just these two people freaking talking that you never see. What a weird gimmick and structure for a story there. Nocterra, Blacktop Bill special, nah. Then we got Frontiersman issue number 4. I was kind of hoping not to like this because I don't know why, but I really like this book, but I kind of don't want to like it. I just kind of want to let it lie on the shelf, on the table, but I keep reading it and I keep liking it, right? So this is Frontiersman. He is a retired superhero. He's been pulled out of retirement to like live in a tree to stop it from being cut down or something for these protesters. In the last issue, a villain shows up and he had to kill him. So this is dealing with the aftermath of that. He's still up there in the tree. Then a former old flame of his, who is also a former villain, she's like this giant woman who can shrink down, but she's still giant. She shows up and they're like reflecting on their lives, on their careers, on their affair. And then it leads into some saucy time, and I liked it, man. Frontiersman issue number 4. Pretty solid book still. 4 issues in, I'm digging it. Spawn 325. This is one of those issues of Spawn. You get these every so often where most of the issue is a bunch of people that you don't know or remember who they are talking about shit that you don't remember is going on. And that's one of these issues of Spawn for me. Even the artwork wasn't as exciting, but there were some moments where it pops. The opening here, we're introduced or to this, or we see again, I'm the first time I've noticed them. It's, what do they call them? Centurion Spawn. So I guess he's like a Roman legionnaire Spawn or something like that. And then Spawn's going off looking for Cagliostro. And I think he runs into a familiar face there. And then, but the majority of this issue is, like I said, every so often in Spawn, you got a bunch of people that you don't remember who they are, talking about a bunch of stuff that you don't remember what's going on. That was Spawn 325. So there you go. Also, each one of these says, next issue, written by Spawn creator Todd McFarlane. Todd's name is not on here. It's Rory McConville, and it's been on the last couple. Anyway, then we got Girl Scouts Stone Ghost issue number 2. This is a book that I have no freaking clue, for the most part, what the hell is actually going on, but I cannot avert my eyes from it. I love Jim Mahfood's artwork. I always have. He's had, in recent years, a different, more raw, visceral, edgy type style that I absolutely freaking love. I loved this book, and I can't tell you what it's about. Like, it doesn't remind me much of what Girl Scouts was when I read it in like the 2000s or whatever, but I'm enjoying it. The artwork is great. It's twisting different styles and formats through there, and it's just really awesome and gnarly and cool. If you like really cool independent underground artwork, definitely check it out. Story-wise, there's some craziness going on. I mean, there's bits you can follow. I'm not saying it's completely indecipherable. There's a really nice bit in there about how the one character met her former lover or something like that. That was a really nice scene. It's like done on notebook paper. Anyway, Pantha is here with issue number 1 from Dynamite Comics. I have never read a Pantha book. Pantha apparently she was a queen of Egypt. She couldn't bear children, so Pharaoh got one of his concubines pregnant, so she had a kid, so that means that this woman's power was going to be waning. She didn't want that, so she tried to kill all of the children in Egypt, and she got cursed by Sekhmet, and now she lives as a panther. Okay. Really good book, though. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I like all the Egyptian stuff. I like the way the story is built up. There's not a lot of Pantha action yet in this first issue. It's a lot of setup, a lot of like, here's the threat, here's what's going on. Some really interesting ideas and concepts about how gods maintain worship and adulation and how they maintain their immortality in a way. So I really liked it. Thought it was super cool. Plus, a Ken Hazer TMNT #1 homage cover. Yes. So Pantha #1, I liked it. I also really liked the art in that book, too. Then we have Elvira meets Vincent Price, issue number 4. This is wrapping up the whole Lost film story, but it's setting up for the next arc to begin. I love this book. It's so much fun. Elvira and the ghost of Vincent Price are on a mission to stop these ancient Egyptian gods. Yeah, Egyptian gods again. Well, Dynamite's got a theme going on this week. But anyway, they're trying to stop these evil gods from resurrecting and ending the world, and they need to use this lost film of Vincent Price Really cool stuff. Doesn't take itself too seriously. Lots of fun little jokes and bits, but still 100% honest to everything I remember and think about when I think of Elvira. So it's on brand, it's fun, it's exciting, and it's humorous. This book is awesome. It's been one of my favorite books from Dynamite I've read in years. Elvira meets Vincent Price, issue number 4, out this week. Then we got Evil Ernie, issue number 2, and look at that, a Ken Hazer TMNT number 2 homage. Now we've had the issue number 1 homages. Now we got the issue number 2 homages, which is really cool. Remember, that's the one with the Mouser and the reflection of the turtles. Anyway, Evil Ernie number 2, I'm digging it. These are the first issues of Evil Ernie I've ever read. I don't know much about it. Seems like this dude got jumped by a biker gang and killed, and now he's possessed by Evil Ernie. I don't know, but it's wild, rambunctious, violent, gruesome fun, and I like that kind of stuff. So Evil Ernie number 2, I really dug. Then we got Red Sonja, issue number 5, a TMNT 2. That's right, homage cover by Ken Hazer. Really love this. It's just her boobs, but I like that. But Red Sonja number 5, this book is awesome. Mirka Andolfo is the writer now, and Red Sonja has been tasked with protecting this young girl who's like pyrokinetic, right? And she's got something inside of her, and it's like very dangerous. So this takes the first part of the mission, and now it develops it further into where the series is going. I like the direction. I like this book. The characterization is spot on. I've read some Red Sonja books in the past, but I like this one a lot because it really does something different with the character, where it's not saying necessarily that it's talking more, making her more of like a mom, but more of like a mentor, and that's an interesting dynamic, and I like seeing it. Red Sonja number 5, there you go. Then we got Jennifer Blood, issue number 4, TMNT number 2, homage cover by Ken Hazer. Jennifer Blood's all right. So it's the Garth Ennis character. I remember reading it back in the early days. She is, you know, mom by day and an assassin at night, and she's out to hunt killers, right? She's like the Punisher if the Punisher was a housewife. But now in this series, there is an entire town taken over by people in the Witness Protection Program. So a bunch of criminals all living the good life, but in this town's basically their prison, but they get to live a normal life there. Jennifer Blood's in there. She's running amok, right? This whole issue is kind of a little bit boring because it's just about the sheriff of that town trying to do her due diligence to figure out where Jennifer Blood is. So it takes a while to get there, and when it gets there, it ends. So this book could be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more punchy, but Jennifer Blood is still decent enough, and I love that cover. Then we got Deja Thorus versus John Carter of Mars, issue number 6. This is the final issue of this miniseries, and I've liked it. I haven't read any of these Dynamite Warlord of Mars books since the very first ones from several years ago, right? So at first I was lost when I was getting into this book, but through the course of the 6 issues, I've had a lot of fun with it. I've always liked the Warlord of Mars stuff. I've always enjoyed that world. I've always liked these characters. In this one, there's this evil dude who's like creates a clone of John Carter. So you finally get the title to come true here, where she's fighting a version of John Carter. But it wraps up nice. It's a nice solid ending to what's been a solid book. Deja Thorus versus John Carter, issue number 4. From AWA Upshot, we have a new one, The Fourth Man, issue number 1. I don't know what to think about this one. So it's about 2 rival car dealerships hiring assassins to kill. I don't know. I loved the artwork. Mike Deodato Jr., who does amazing artwork here, really liking it. By the way, he cast Paul Giamatti, he cast James Caan, he cast Harvey Keitel. Yeah, totally what he's doing. But I mean, I like it. I really like the artwork here. And I'm reading through the story, and it reads fine, but then it gets to the end, and I just go, what the hell is this about? And then I read the little notes in the back, and I was like, that's where I got the car salesman bit from. I was really confused by this first issue, but it still was a decent read. So I'll read the second issue, see if it clarifies some things. Speaking of Mike Deodato at AWA, we got Not All Robots, issue number 5. This is the final issue of volume 1. They promised more, and I hope so, because the way this ends, if this was just the end of Not All Robots, it would not be a very satisfying ending. It has some moments that end, and they end in quirky, weird, awkward type ways, and it's Mark Russell doing what Mark Russell does, and I like it. I like the way a lot of the stuff ends, but the overall narrative is weird, but it is just setting up then into a next gear for this book. This has been a really solid book. This is one of the weaker issues for me, but it was still pretty decent. So Not All Robots #5, I would still highly recommend that book. Then we got Bylines, In Blood, issue #1 from Aftershock, Erica Schultz, Van Jensen, Aniki. This one's okay. It's not quite super like must read, but it's all right. It's about a former journalist, and now her mentor has been killed, and she's now a private investigator, so she's trying to solve the crime. Sometimes it flows very well. Sometimes the page composition's cool. Sometimes it doesn't flow very well. Sometimes it feels a bit clunky, and overall it's just a bit uneven, but it was still intriguing enough. So if it's a light week from you and it sounds like something you might want to pick up, you might want to check it out. But overall, didn't really completely wow me, but it didn't throw me off either, so maybe I'll come back for the second issue of that. Anyway, that's what I read, that's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to support the channel, and over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcast blogs and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, boom.